5 o'clock and it's already pitch black here in Washington. I mean, it is the shortest day of the year, so happy freaking winter solstice, everybody. I am live streaming at your request. I had some folks who asked for me to start live streaming so you guys could ask me anything within reason, and kind of just go over and review. Hi, Midnight Samurai! Yay! So happy you're here. Robert Rittenhouse, hello, hello. For some reason, when I set up the live stream, I was scheduling it on my phone, and I assumed that I would be able to go do it from my computer as well, but I'm on my phone, so if it sounds shitty, don't have my mic, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Steve, what's up? Stangman. Yes. So like I said, I'm kind of a little sick right now, so my voice is sounding a little sicky, but feeling good, happy, just like my autoflowers. Really, I have never grown autoflowers. I have always grown for commercial production, and I've grown for yield and quality, and only in the last, maybe 5 years have there been a lot of work in autoflower breeding to really make autoflowers even interesting enough for me to want to grow. I mean, maybe that sounds rude, but now I'm not growing for commercial production. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I'm growing autoflowers. Yes, ask me Melissa Martinez. You can ask me something. Please do. So when I soak seeds in water, do I add anything? Yes, I do. Let me grab, let's see here. I soak seeds in this Bigfoot mycorrhiza concentrated water in. Really, I want the mycorrhizal spores inoculated onto my seed as quick as possible. Do you like jackets? Melissa Martinez. Yeah, sure. So the seeds, really getting that inoculation with the mycorrhizal fungi as soon as possible is going to ensure that their life is as happy, healthy, and robust as it possibly can be. Mycorrhizal fungi takes a really long time to establish. It's a secondary species. Fungus likes to associate with things that live a long time. So the fact that, like pine trees, oak trees, like the fact that it has a relationship with cannabis, I mean, lots of grass species have relationships with fungus, but we want to get that relationship going as soon as possible because our cannabis doesn't have that long of a life cycle. And Ricky Bobby Williams is saying he's just started purple lemonade from 420 fast buds and wedding glue. What type of jackets do I like? I don't know. That's a very weird question. I don't know. I'm sorry. So the autoflower seedlings, I soaked them in this Bigfoot mycorrhiza inoculant. And really, mycorrhiza fungi is magical. I'm really bummed because I missed Myceliate Festival this past October, where I was going to be teaching a class on the magic of mycorrhiza. And so our soils used to be myceliated, used to have all kinds of mycorrhizal fungi growing within it. And yeah, the jackets you wear outside when it's cold are nice. Yellow jackets, I do love yellow jackets. I love bees, I love wasps. I love parasitic wasps especially. Those are probably my favorite, and I think they might get considered being called a yellow jacket. I'm not sure. But root-wise, microbe complete. Nice. I like Bigfoot because it has biochar in it as well, and I like kind of become obsessed with biochar and trying to myceliate the world, you know, like trying to get mycorrhizal fungi back, renew some of these, regenerate some of our ecosystems, even if it is just like in our own home, our garden, promoting a fungally dominant environment, because the fungus, that mycelium network, is so fucking important. It's the communication. It's like the world wide web of the earth, the collective consciousness. I just read a study this morning on psilocybin containing terpenes, different terpenes, and I was thinking, well, duh, of course psilocybin contains terpenes. Terpenes are the communication, the language between species. And that's so evident in mycorrhizal fungi that it seemed like a no-brainer to me, because I've been like obsessed with mycorrhizal fungi for a minute. And the fact that we're seeing the terpenes and different terpenes, what kind of effect they have on us, and how that could be influenced, not only like we talk about it in cannabis, but now we're looking at testing psilocybin and mushrooms and seeing the kinds of compounds that are in them and how that might affect the entourage effect. And yes, Sting Man, I add a little bit, like literally, it's 1 teaspoon per gallon of water, so I just sprinkle a little bit in there. Water it into, or put it in the cup, and then I also water in, you know, like at the time of planting the seeds that are germinated. Yes, definitely use mycorrhiza from the start. So this is, if you're a part of my Patreon, you've heard this talk before, but it's just one story that, it's like a parable kind of to me. Like if I had like my collection of stories, my Bible, I guess, of the natural world, and how like plants and different species, different kingdoms interact with one another, right? Like we've got fungus that is literally communicating between plants and insects by like producing terpenes within them. And so we have them at the same time, they're feeding our plants, they're providing solubilizing nutrients, they are passing information from one species to another, water. It's just like, it's kind of like God. Like they are doing so much at the same time. We really should be appreciating the mycorrhizal fungi, all fungus, really, all fungus, the psilocybin, the mycorrhizal, the decomposers. If we didn't have fungus, we would cover shit everywhere. There would just be like decaying dead bodies and poop and rotten food. I mean, trichoderma, botrytis, mycorrhiza, all of these things that we talk about in cannabis for cannabis cultivation aren't isolated to cannabis. They're just part of the entire natural world. And so like my perspective on gardening, and cannabis cultivation is really like holistic. That's why I teach the holistic horticulture classes, because you can't separate these things. They are connected. Everything is connected, and it's all fucking connected by mushrooms, by fungus, by mycorrhiza, mycelium. It's just, I mean, not everything mycorrhiza, obviously that was a hyperbolic statement, but some type of fungus within us, within our plants. The only time, and we think of these things kind of as like issues or pests or things that we can manipulate and use for our benefit, which like bringing it into our sterilized medium from inside in a pot, definitely we need to promote that there. We're trying to simulate nature, but if we just take a moment to step outside and look at the way that this interacts with the natural world, how is fungus outside behaving? What does it like? Well, it's like, okay, then you start like put your mind in the perspective of whatever it is you're trying to use in your garden. So like, oh, what the fuck does mushroom like? A mushroom likes a damp, moist place. It feeds off of lignin. It likes complex carbohydrates. It needs food. It wants to decompose. It doesn't like to be disturbed. So then you start thinking about how can you provide a habitat that has the resources for this fungus that is in the... Do you use Bigfoot with waterings? No, I use Bigfoot in the very beginning. So I drop my seeds in with a Bigfoot. I water in my seeds. I make my soil really moist for those seed blockers, which I really like the seed blockers, you guys. Seed blockers have been a game changer for me with trying to grow a lot of seedlings of different kinds and not just cannabis, you know, like tomatoes and lemon balm and calendula and all of the seeds. I just love starting seeds in the spring, and then giving seeds away, like seedling plants, to people is just such an amazing, nice gift to give someone, and seeds are pretty affordable. So I bought the seed blocker last year so that I could just like go hard on the tomatoes, and I did. I started like, I don't know, 100 tomato plants, which I'm living in a fucking neighborhood right now. I don't need 100 tomato plants, but needless to say, the seed blocker has also been amazing for the autoflowers because autoflowers don't like to be fucking disturbed, right? You don't want to mess with them, you don't want to stress them out, and a lot of people will say like, put it in their forever home, which is true. Yeah, you should, definitely. That's like the best case scenario, but a seed blocker is kind of like the forever home. It's, you know, doesn't have anything to cause a root bound. It's just a fucking block of soil that's wet. So I water it in with a big foot, get my seeds in there, and then put it into their forever home pretty quickly. Question, can you stretch your fungi by doing a tea extraction? For instance, can I take a couple scoops of myco and add molasses or something, add air and bubble for a few days to grow more fungi? No, not really. I mean, you might be able to sporulate some of it, but it's not like a bacteria. A bacteria is feeding on the simple sugars. They multiply rapidly. Like, think about what a fungus needs. It needs to be in a proper environment in its home. So, like, you don't need to keep using mycorrhizal fungi throughout your grow. Like, it's slow growing. You just need to keep it alive and get it inoculated as soon as possible on the root zone. And hopefully y'all are growing in like, ideal scenario is like a living soil bed, right? But not everyone can do that. And so maybe you're doing pots. And if you're using pots, then you would want to, you know, have to reestablish that mycorrhizal fungal network like every time pretty much. So I love leaving my root balls in my mycorrhizal fungi needs a live root, but there is some evidence showing. I was actually talking to Mike the Microbe Man at the Grassroots Living Soil Conference last year. He makes the microbial products for Grassroots, and we were talking about how there is some evidence suggesting that mycorrhizal fungi may be able to sporulate with biochar. So, because biochar is a carbon source, that we might be able to use that as a carrier. And Robert Rittenhouse is saying, I was told to stay away from beds, but to use large round pots. They were saying the corners dry out too quick. Huh, I've never run into my pots drying out. Or I mean my living soil beds drying out. In fact, my living soil beds are the easiest, lowest maintenance, like besides growing native soil in the ground, obviously. I love my living soil bed. It looks so good. I just harvested Gelato G from Seedsman, and I'm really happy with how it turned out with the blue mat watering system. It, you know, automatically waters, and it's easier to manage. You can also leave the root balls in, let them decompose, and then just plant around. Like with a pot, you're kind of just planting in the center. I like to hopscotch my planting in the bed, and I'll play around with it all the time because I'm just trying to create content, try new things. You can only learn by trying new things and just like being able to capture that content and share it with folks. So sometimes, you know, like I've never been a scrogger because I've just mostly grown outdoors, large plants or large quantities in sea of green. So like I did a scrog in my living soil bed and just like 2 giant plants, one on each side of the 4x8. But then I've done like 8 plants, 12 plants, sea of green, it's little vegetative. So it's nice having the beds to be able to play around with different planting patterns, and then also leaving the root balls in to decompose. And then like Hans Cold said, the mycorrhizal fungi needs the relationship with the roots to live and grow. But there is, like I said, I'll have to look for the white paper that's saying that the sporulation process could begin in the presence of biochar or carbon, because mycorrhizal fungi is feeding on decomposing carbon. Lignin is really what it wants to feed off of. That's why you see mushrooms growing in forests, right? Or in bark chips. And like, so then you want to start thinking about like the way mushroom grows, what it likes, and then simulate that in your bed. So like dry backs are not great for fungus. Where the fuck do fungus live? In Washington, the rainiest place in the United States. Layer is really important because of the lignin, the carbohydrates, and getting it in there early, young, and then you don't have to keep reapplying. It's like they say water in every fucking time, but they are marketing a product that they are trying to sell you. So no matter how great the product is, you don't ever listen to the recommended. I never do. I just know that they are selling me. They're like, they want my money. So use it, get it started, get it going in the beginning, maybe every now and then add it in to make sure if you don't see mycelium actively growing, to get more spores in there. But if you have a bed, you don't need to keep adding it over and over again. Like, just make sure your fungus is alive. If you have a microscope, easy way to know if you have mycorrhizal fungi, it's like look in a microscope, but obviously not everyone has a microscope. What other ways can you add carbon to indoor plants? Well, you can water in micronized biochar. That's like, it's crazy. Biochar is crazy, y'all. Biochar is like, compost has, retains like 10 to 20% of its source carbon. So that means when you start composting something, that carbon leaves as it's decaying and breaking down. It doesn't leave, it doesn't stay in that source. So only 10 to 20%, right? Biochar retains like 20 to 50%. So up to sometimes double what, or triple, I guess, depending on the ratio of what compost does, because it's burned at a really, really low temperature. Really high temperature with low oxygen. It's called pyrolysis. And so it retains a lot of the carbon in that like crystalline, really crazy structure when you look at it under a microscope. And microbes love it. It's a great place for them to hide from other microbes. It holds water, it holds moisture, same thing. Nutrients, because nutrients are suspended in solution, and it just adds a lot. It also increases the cation exchange capacity of your soil. So CEC, right? Me and Luna did a talk on this. CEC is the ability of your soil to like transfer nutrients or cations. And so having biochar in there has a lot more places for nutrients to connect to and then be able to like, transfer to the plant. So biochar and humic and fulvic are all great, also really great ways to increase that CEC. And then it does a really good job of also remediating soils. So like, holding on to heavy metals so the plants don't take it up. Biochar is used by municipal waste treatment centers and water treatment centers, and it's amazing. So Bigfoot has the biochar, has the mycorrhiza. You can add, I'm just saying, you could just buy biochar, or you can make it yourself. I have a class where I talk about how to fucking make biochar. I have videos. I can send a YouTube video of this guy who builds a little biochar kiln in his backyard with basically bricks and, I don't know, some kind of metal can. And anyway, I also have an article I could share on biochar. So that's a great way to add carbon. Rice hulls, hemp hurd. What is Bigfoot? Bigfoot is mycorrhizal spores that are on biochar. So then it also has like kelp, humic, fulvic, leonardite, which is like fulvic. What else does it have in here? Worm castings. So I use that. Biochar or Bigfoot, biochar. Bigfoot sends me stuff all the time. If you want a free sample, hit me up. I have some of their stuff on my website and my store. I really try to only sell things that I use and that have like a good story, which, by the way, also, let me show you this book. Sorry, it's just too cute. I have to. Bigfoot sent me this. Speaking of mycorrhiza, oh my god, it's a kid's book. Mycorrhiza, Earth's Best Friend. Written by Dr. Mike Amaranthus. So that's the owner of Bigfoot. His dad is a mycologist that breeds the spores of the mycorrhiza fungi. So that's another reason I love Bigfoot, because Bigfoot is family owned in the Pacific Northwest. His dad fucking makes the spores for the mycorrhiza, and then his son is like, hey, I'm gonna start a company, target it for weed people, because he's loves to smoke and mushrooms and a super cool guy. And then he sent me this book. So, yeah, I really like the company. I will have to read Mycorrhiza, not live right now, but I will read it with my puppet, because I got a puppet just for this. Greenie Jean, she's a little green weed nug, and she's gonna read some of my articles and things on YouTube, so I don't have to just be sitting here talking at you. But I'm not prepared to bring Greenie Jean out right now. It's a lot harder than you would expect to like make a puppet talk when you want it to, and like I need to be a lot higher for that right now. Somebody asked Steve, I have a 3-year-old wood compost this year, 50 gallons of it. What is the best way to apply use? I have 50 pounds of worm castings and a 300 square foot garden. Wow, that's amazing. What a great source of carbon. We're just talking about carbon. Carbon is the ingredient, the basis of all life. So yeah, I mean, 300 square feet, I don't really know what 50 gallons, what the math would be on that for like how deep you want, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would say a 3 to 6 inch mulch layer on top of your garden would be great. Tori, always laughing at me, man. You want Greenie Jean to come out. But yeah, so compost, wood chips, add it to your garden, man. Get it out there. It probably has amazing fungal life, right? Because that's what fungus likes, high lignin, high carbon. It's probably took a long time to fucking break down, though, if you didn't have green with it, right? Like Greenie Jean, no, like manures or scraps or fresh cut grass. Give Greenie a trim and let's see her. And yes, you can add 1-year-old leaf mulch to the soil. Like I said, mulches, and this is holistic. You need to like determine whether like what your personal garden, what your soil is like what is the texture of your soil, what's its water holding capacity, do you have very much organic matter in there, like these are all questions. There's not one way to skin a cat. When you're gardening, you are literally interacting with so many hundreds and thousands of different species, from the tiniest bacteria to the aphid that is attracted to a particular weed, and everything is coexisting in this perfect, beautiful harmony of nature where it has a purpose and a reason for being there naturally. It's when we come in and we're bringing things in that we're going to shift and alter the population of species and how they are, like, because we're changing the resources available. Everything has a carrying capacity. Every single ecosystem has a certain amount of species that it can support depending on the resources that are available. And so when we're adding carbon, when we're adding things, compost, whatever it's made up of, like, is going to have a particular attraction, right, to certain species. So if we are like, we want to take this big holistic picture, step back into our garden and be like, okay, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I need? Am I doing this, like, you know what I mean? Like, where is water running off? If you have any kind of, like, are you on a hillside? can you see how the wind and the water is rolling through and percolating through your soil? Maybe you use the wood chips at the base of that because you want to hold on to that water. We don't want water just flooding off, sheeting off, and leaving our gardens. So thinking about how we can use the resources that we have available, what we need them for, and what it's going to do to the overall ecosystem. That's why I fucking love growing outdoor. Like, I'm sorry, inside I get so bored. I love bugs. I love watching the interaction of species. I am an environmental scientist at heart at first. Like, my first job out of college was with the Nature Conservancy. I love studying species interactions. And for me, I love smoking weed. I love gardening. So yeah, growing weed outside is like everything that I love all wrapped up in one. And I love teaching people about things that I love because I want them to love it as much as I do too. Also, I think the world would be a better place if more people were gardening and smoking pot that they grew themselves. But that's a whole nother conversation. So, the autoflowers. Back to the autoflowers. This is so funny. I don't live stream. I have never live streamed really on YouTube before like this. I do this every Tuesday with my patrons. So I have a Patreon subscription, and for like the last 2 years, I do this every Tuesday at 4:20, and go over. It's usually a little bit more organized, but sometimes it can be crazy like this because I am crazy. So I'm excited to get this going on YouTube though, because it's just, getting the word out there and talking to more people. And after 2 years of live streaming, I'm actually a lot more comfortable with it than I was, 2 years ago. Before, I was just like a voice behind the radio or behind the podcast, and live streaming is a little bit different, especially reading all of the comments that are going up and down and trying to keep my crazy train of thought from getting all over the place, but that's okay. I like to spitfire. I like to go all over. Tangents are my favorite thing. Rants, tangents, go off the deep end, which, by the way, so you will have an opportunity to watch me do that every Thursday at 5 o'clock. I just got off the phone with Ben from the Humboldt Seed Company before this, and I am working on a podcast that is going to be recorded, but a grow along. So I'm so fucking excited. I don't know if any Midnight Samurai, thank you, I love you. I don't know if anybody has done this. So, I did the Thursday night with Luna, which was fun. I love Luna, but it felt like, I don't know, like a lot of podcasts are thinly veiled infomercials or like commercials for a product or a brand or whatever it is, and it just didn't feel like of the essence. It wasn't for the plant, it was for the people. A lot of finding guests and being able to organize that. It's like I'm creating a podcast that is for the plant. So I was talking to Humboldt Seed Company before this, and I just got confirmation that he will be giving me seeds for everybody that is in the grow along. So the podcast will launch in March and end in October, and it's going to be following the life cycle of an outdoor season of a plant. There's going to be culture, there's going to be history, there's going to be guests, there's going to be things, all kinds of things peppered in there, but I'm really looking at this as like my creative expression, a piece of art, an ode, a tribute, a love story to cannabis. But at the same time, it coincides with a grow along. So anyone listening to this, you are welcome to like sign up for the grow along. It'll be following, we'll all have the same seeds. It will be from the Humboldt Seed Company, and it will be following the podcast. We'll be going along with it, with the seasons, with the growth cycle, with current events. I mean, like I'm going to have a 420 episode, a Women's Day, all kinds of things. I'm really, really excited. I've been working hard on this. I'm almost done with my holistic horticulture classes, which, by the way, holy crap. Creating a new class every month that is 3 hours with articles, recipes, guests, a 3-hour presentation, all of the stuff is so hard, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And so many times I was like, holy shit, I want to cancel this month. This is so much. Like, and then being able to sell it, market it, which I have been terrible at marketing it and selling it because what the fuck? It's like, how do I have time? But I'm done with that in February. So my next class is with Purple Caper. He's teaching a breeding class with me, so that's also live. He's providing seeds for the breeding class, and then my final class is in February, and then the podcast launches in March. So more education, more information, more rants, more fun. And then along this whole time while all this is going on, obviously we got the grow, we got the indoor freaking hybrid living soil pots, organic nutrients. So we do run the what's it called? Organics Alive, water soluble, fully available in our pots because pots don't have the same carrying capacity as a living soil bed, right? Think about that. Your pot is so much smaller. The volume of soil is going to dictate the amount of species that can live in your living soil and solubilize and cycle nutrients. So your plants, you really can't push your plants or give them as much as they want from a smaller container using just living soil and the natural cycle. Like, it's just, I mean, you can definitely get really amazing results, but the yields are just, that's why we see people say, oh, you can't get yields with organics. And it's like, no, you can. You just have to think about it. Think about how if your plant has a limited food source, a limited carrying capacity of those microorganisms in a small container, you're not going to get as much as you would in a fucking living soil bed. Again, side tangent, but the pots, I think we're using 10-gallon pots in there. Living soil, grassroots living soil, smart pots. So I did a side-by-side showing the living soil versus the the smart pots versus grassroots. And for sure, grassroots, hands down, having that liner in there keeps the moisture level way more consistent. Just all around, holds its shape better. Like, seriously, I love Smart Pots, like the company, don't get me wrong. I love the people there, they're awesome. But grassroots pots are where it's at. I also sell them on my website because I love them so much. So I grow in 10-gallon in one room, and then I have a 4x8 tent in the other room, and then I am doing the Autoflower grow along or follow along that I've been posting on YouTube for 3-gallon grassroots living soil pots. And so my idea behind this whole Autoflower thing, which is a big circle, bringing it all the way back around because oh yeah, nice, awesome, 65-gallon grassroots round pot, that's great. I did 100, they gave me 100-gallon that I did my outdoor plant in last year, and my plant that was in the 4x8 wooden bed did better, but that's also because I did a hugelkultur, which hugelkultur beds are where it's at for all kinds of plants. Hugelkultur. If you don't know what hugelkultur is, check it out. Try it. You're going to save money on potting mix. You're going to have a more fungally dominant soil. You're going to retain water more effectively, which will then turn into less watering. The hugelkultur, Jackalope Farms does all hugelkultur greenhouses. 6 years ago, I helped build a hugelkultur 10,000 square foot licensed hugelkultur farm, and it was so fun. It was amazing. The weed turned out beautiful, and you're able to spend a little bit more on like high quality compost if you aren't producing enough, which really, who is producing enough to cover a 10,000 square foot garden? Oh no, you got termites in your hugel and they killed your plants. Oh my god, see? And there you have it. That's the fucking consequences of nature outside. You just have to go with it. So I remember you posted about the termites. What did we come up with? What was what kills them? It was like, we want integrative pest management. We got to think about like predatory species, biocontrols of fungus or bacteria that target them, fucking some kind of like, organic pesticide like a neem or something. The zombie spores did it. Yes, Isaria fumosa rosea, or which I haven't been able to get the IPMO to effectively work like the Isaria fumosa rosea. So that strain is a zombie spore that I use in my garden because, hey, I'm not cautious. Like, I love bugs, so you know what? Sometimes my cat is in the grow, sometimes my dog is in the grow. You know, we got stuff, you know, hopping in and out, mostly just like aphids occasionally. And the zombie spores work amazing on pretty much every pest in an indoor garden setting. The thing with the zombie spores though is that you really need it to treat it correctly. Like a lot of people don't have success with it because they don't follow the guidelines, which is like it needs to be in water, agitated 20 minutes for at 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and then applied when the relative humidity is 80% or higher, which when you're watering it in, that's easy to, you know, maintain those parameters. But when you're foliaring it, sometimes it doesn't work out. So like my clients in Oklahoma, I definitely am like, use the zombie spore because it's already, that's that thinking about the ecosystem, right? You're already in a humid place. So use the fucking mushrooms and fungus to help you, you know, take care of things. So I'm glad that that worked out for you, but I think it was a little too late because it killed your plants. But it's a learning experience. And termites, you know what? Everything has intrinsic value and they are just doing their job. So before you build a hugelkultur bed, maybe you want to think about, do you have termites around in your area? Because remember what I said, like, oh, look at your ecosystem. What is your garden like? What life is there? What is going to happen when you bring in a resource? That is a resource for termites. You're going to increase the carrying capacity, the population is going to grow, and of course they're going to go after the fucking wood. So, man, I'm sorry, it sucks, but that's happened to me, not termites specifically, but that happens to all of us. That's what humans do. We fucking bring plants and species and we mix things and we go outside and we're like, oh shit, man, that, you know, Japanese beetle really fucking up everything over here, but it does fine in its own ecosystem because it has all of the balance of the biocontrols, the predators. It's like a beautiful dance and harmony, and nature will eventually you know, work itself out. And Steve says he started Hugel 12 years ago and it totally rotted down and gave my main garden soil. Yes, definitely. 12 years, that's an amazingly long time for your hugelkultur mounds to last. That, and you think about nature, it's like that's what's going on naturally. It's like trees and limbs fall from the forest, the trees, the canopy, and then things die, fungus decomposes it, leaves fall, and it makes amazing rich humus. And that's why people spend hella money on Alaskan humus or forest floor humus, right? Because that carbon in there is just amazing, and it's a food for life. Exactly. It's always life. You haven't had a run yet where you don't learn. Always battling something. Battling, you know, maybe we could change your perspective. I guess battling isn't a bad thing, but learning, studying, you could be like a wildlife biologist, a citizen scientist who's just out there observing, you know, the way species interact with each other. Would termite grass be fungal dominant at least? Frass. Would termite frass be fungal dominant at least? Interesting. That's a great idea. I'm going to have to think about that before I answer it because that's a good question. Fungally dominant insect frass, because they consume so much wood and lignin, and you would think that it would be fungally dominant, right? Just like, I mean, I will think about this, and Midnight Samurai, I got you. We're going to go down the path. Hello from Alaska. Been gardening all my life with my grandparents, but started growing cannabis in 2007. 100% organic, baby. Yay. How is that? I've always wondered, growing in Alaska where the latitude is so different, the light cycle is so different. I'm struggling. Like I was just talking to the Humboldt Seed Company, and we were talking about this is an idea that I've played with and talked about for a long time, for like years now. Well, maybe like a year and a half. It's like gardening zones for cannabis seeds. Like why we don't put our hardiness zones on our cannabis seeds. And so when I was talking to Humboldt Seed Company, I was like, they were talking about, they're like, oh, we've been thinking the same thing. But it's hard because hardiness zones only take into account the first and last frost date, whereas cannabis is so influenced by the different latitudes and how far away from the equator you are, because the light cycle is so different. And so, like, moving from California up by Canada, I have seen such a difference in the flowering time of outdoor, because the days are way longer, nights are shorter, and that change of like daylight is significantly different than it was in California. So I'm curious how growing in Alaska would be. Autos work fine, yes. Well, and the climate has changed so much here. Yeah, I bet. I've never been to Alaska. I've always wanted to. The great last frontier. Well, I think that's space, but you know what I'm saying, like the Wild West. But hopefully next year. I was supposed to go for the salmon run to Alaska and go fishing with my dad. I really love fishing. I love all animals and nature, and fishing and making fish amino acids or emulsion to add to the garden. I still have 2 buckets full, one from the year before last and the one that I made this year, and I'm scared. I make these things and I know that they're good for my garden, but it smelled so bad at first, and I'm just scared of opening it, honestly. I would rather just bury the fish guts in my garden than do the ferments. Like, I'm just a scared person when it comes to the ferments. You use salmon fertilizer every year. Yeah, and I read a study that the forests in Alaska are actually not doing well because of the lack of salmon that are not able to spawn and go upstream. The salmon runs have been really like poor. And the salmon are like, well, the salmon are the sea. The sea is the heart of life, and all those rich nutrients that are stored in the salmon then can't be contributed and spread throughout the forest. And so we're seeing like places that normally have a lot more fertilization depleted, and when you get like lower nitrogen levels, you get less green growth, and then there's also been like combination of less moisture, more fires, all kinds of, it's like I said, it's all fucking connected, down to the fucking salmon, to the forest health, and everything. It's beautiful, amazing world that we live in, and we have a stronger influence on it than we think. And so connecting with nature and thinking about how our interactions and our actions, being accountable and responsible for what we do, and then just trying to like have a better impact, on each other and on the planet and our animal and plant friends and our fungi friends. And yeah, everybody should just eat more mushrooms. I just taught a class on it, y'all. Harnessing neuroplasticity with cannabis and psilocybin, and I've been really feeling amazing. I've been microdosing almost like every other day for 2 weeks now, and it really helps with the seasonal depression. I mean, like, I am not used to this gray. I'm from California, man. I love the sunshine, so this has been a huge change to, go through that. But the mushrooms help, man. The fungus is among us. So next week on my Sunday, not next week, holy shit, that's like in a few days. This week, Sunday's episode or video of the follow along with the autoflowers is going to be talking about Azospirillum bacteria, and then using it, how we use it. It is another fucking product, but then I'll just explore more bacteria. Yay, Midnight Samurai just got the care package, gonna start the protocol. Yes, yay, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Report back. I was thinking about starting a channel on my Discord that was like, I think I actually have a channel that's on meditation, but maybe like have it only opened to the people who took the neuroplasticity class, so that we can be more like vulnerable than with the whole Discord of people who are, because some people just want to grow weed, you know, and this is great, but I'm a holistic human being. I want to fucking grow mushrooms. I want to study the animals in my garden. I want to mountain bike and snowboard and fish and play with my son and dance naked in the fucking forest. So having the Discord organized like that so we can share our experience would be kind of cool. So I'll have to talk to Stin about that. So yeah, if anybody is interested in the microdosing class, it's on my website. Check it out. But I am going to go make dinner and spend time with my babies and my family. So we'll see you on Sunday. I'm dropping the next episode. Please share, subscribe, like, turn on notifications. I am throttled on Instagram, so I am moving to YouTube, baby. So I'll see you here Sunday, 9 o'clock, the next video, azospirillum, and then every Thursday at 5. So I'll go over more bacteria next week. So we talked about mushrooms today, mycorrhizal fungi, adding carbon, a whole bunch of other tangents. But Merry Christmas, motherfuckers, and Happy New Year, and have a great rest of your night. If I could end it.